Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and spending some time with me today. Always grateful for that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about one of the most important and overlooked aspects in bass fishing, and that is understanding light intensity. If you're going to be a good angler, you have got to understand the effects light intensity has on the techniques and the bass mood and behavior. So we're going to give you guys some good foundational tips and advice on that in today's video. Also, guys, just a couple quick reminders, daily housekeeping tips. Just wanted to thank everybody out there that's taking time to subscribe here to The Fishing Teacher. And a big thank you from me and my family for everybody that's been taking the time to use and bookmark my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of every video. If you're one of those guys that are doing that to purchase your tackle, so you're really helping the channel out. And me and my family want to give you guys a big thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Okay, guys, if you guys have followed me very long on any of my channels, you guys hear me talk about light intensity and water clarity and water temperature all the time. It's like if there's one overlying theme of my teaching here on the channels I have, it's trying to get an understanding of those three things, because light intensity has so much of an impact on how you need to fish and the lures that work the best and the approaches, everything around that. So I want to go into and sort of just give you guys a foundational, startup on this. The Fishing Teacher, we're trying to gear this for people that are sort of just getting started in fishing or, aren't super highly skilled. Not that you can't pick up something, if you're a highly skilled angler. But I want to try to explain light intensity and its effect on the fish so you can incorporate it into your fishing. Now, the light intensity is just that. It's basically a measure of how bright or how dark the day is. And it varies widely. I mean, it varies based upon, your cloud cover and the type of clouds that you have, how fast they're moving through there. It has to do with the angle of the sun as far as the time of the year. It has to do with if there's any shade or lack of shade on the banks that you're fishing on the lake. A lot of different factors determine light intensity. And overall, what you're going to find, and this doesn't apply to every single scenario, but in general, sorry guys, I got out here by the road, it's a little loud out here. But in general, you're going to find out that if you've got two sides of the spectrum, if you got one side of the spectrum here and one side of the spectrum here, the light intensity affects clear water and a little bit warmer water, probably more than anything else as far as the techniques go. As you lose your water clarity and you start to get more stained water, it still plays an impact, but it doesn't play as big of an impact as far as on the mood and the personality and the techniques that you need to use in fishing. So what I want to try to do is I sort of want to try to explain light intensity a little bit from the correlation it has with your water visibility, because the water visibility in correlation with the light intensity has a lot to do with your approach and how you need to fish and the techniques that you fish. So let's start on, say, dirty water, and we'll move up to clear water as far as the intensity goes. If you're fishing dirty water, and what I mean by dirty water, if you're fishing places that have water visibility of, say, excuse me, under 2 foot, like 1 foot to 2 foot, off-colored water you consider, most of the time you're going to find out the fishing is going to be a little bit better if you got a little bit brighter light intensity, because that off-colored water, the fish lose their ability to see visually as well, so they rely a little bit more on sound and vibration to detect their prey. And also the brighter light intensity sometimes will put the fish a little shallower, and it'll put them a little bit closer, not necessarily have to be in the shade, but it puts them closer to shade. So on those brighter days like that, when you have a real bright light intensity and you got, off-colored water, that's a good time, to fish your baits that move a lot of water, that displace a lot of water, larger baits that, have some type of a vibration. Those are going to be your better scenarios with that. And you'll find is if you have off-colored water and you've got a low light intensity with that off-colored water, it doesn't help anything out at all, especially if the water is a little bit cooler. Now, if it's cloudy and it's, say, in the summertime, maybe not quite so much, but you're not going to get any benefit if you're fishing dirty water in a low light condition. It seems like to me it's always a little bit better in those light intensities where you got partly cloudy or clear day. It just seems like it activates those fish, makes them a little bit more predictable where they're going to be at. Now, as the water temperature, as the water clarity gets a little bit clearer, say your water visibility, kicks up, say to 2 to 4 foot. That's when you're going to start noticing your light intensity play a bigger role as far as the techniques that you're going to fish. And again, it's in relationship to the water clarity, the water temperature, everything along those lines there in correlation with the light intensity. For the most part, if you're dealing with water temperatures that are above 55 degrees, anytime that you've got water visibilities of over 3 foot or so, it's all your moving power baits are usually always going to be better. It's like those low light conditions combined with a little bit cleaner water, it seems like it just makes those fish want to chase a little bit more. It's the low light offers some type of it makes them feel a little bit more secure, yet at the same time, the water being clear, they can still feed visually. So that's when you really want to use, those moving baits like top waters, jerk baits, crank baits, all that type of stuff in a lower light condition. Now, if you've got a higher light condition, say again it's partly cloudy or sunny or something like that, that is when shade becomes even more important. It's like if you have water visibilities in that 3 to 5 foot range, unless you're fishing in the dead of the winter, shade is the key element, because bass just don't like to be out in the open, bright light intensity areas very much, unless it's in the springtime of the year and they're spawning when they got other things on their mind. Most of the time they like to be hiding out in shade. They like to be hiding out around objects. So in that type of a situation with those brighter light intensities, always focus on the shade. Now, if it's low light conditions, like it's rainy or cloudy or something like that, in those same scenarios, those fish will scatter out and they'll be more just on open areas, not really around, targets or shade as much. Now, if you got really clear water, say the water visibility is over 5 feet, like clear water out there, it's a little bit different, because in super clear water, the bass still react the same as far as what the light intensity does as far as their ability to chase or not chase. But in really clear water, you have got to have a combination of like some low light conditions and a lower light condition. Like there's a big difference between, like now it's sort of cloudy here right now, but it still feels like it's bright. Like even though it's cloudy, I sort of need my sunglasses. But if you have a thick overcast with some rain, that's going to lower that light intensity a lot more, which is really good in super clear water. In really clear water, you're always going to do your best on those dark days, the days that are just raining or on the verge of raining, especially if it's combined with some wind. Another thing that wind does as far as reducing your visibility in the water is the combination of wind and low light reduces the visibility even more, which is really critical in that super clear water. So if you're fishing water visibilities of over 5 feet, your best days are going to be those days where it's a little windy and really dark out as far as the clouds go. But the main thing is there's every single day that you have out there with the light intensity, the light intensities are always different and they're always changing. It's like very seldom are you going to have the same type of light intensity all day long. As that sun gets in a different position in the sky and the cloud cover, gets thicker or thinner certain times of the day, you're always going to have little periods where it just seems brighter or darker. And one of the things that I've noticed in fishing, guys, is if you're fishing out there and you're fishing, usually some type of water less than 10 feet deep, and you got, say, a partly cloudy, like a heavy partly cloudy day, pay attention, because when that sun pops out from underneath a cloud and it gets bright out, the fishing always usually gets tougher. And if that sun gets tucked behind like a thick cloud, and even though it's partly cloudy out, there's a little window when those fish bite. For the most part, bass like low light conditions. I think that most bass feed at night, and I think that they're a lot more secure. I think they're more active during low light conditions. So the general rule of thumb, if I could give you guys just a real foundational piece of advice, on the low light days that I consider cloudy type days, make sure that you fish your moving baits. Moving baits are always going to be better in those conditions, especially if you couple it up with some wind. And as your light intensity gets brighter, it doesn't have to be like bluebird skies, but it can be cloudy but thin clouds or partly cloudy, just in general brighter conditions. Your fish are going to be tighter to cover, they're going to be in the shade, or they're going to be deeper for the most part, and everything in between there. There's like so many different scenarios as far as when you combine the water temperature, the water clarity, and the light intensity to determine not only the techniques that you fish, but the colors that you fish. Lure colors are also greatly affected by light intensity. And again, for the most part, your brighter lures or your darker lures are going to be better on low light conditions. That's why, like, your chartreuse sided crankbaits are going to be better in low light conditions. Your dark colored plastic worms, your dark colored jigs in low light conditions. And in your brighter conditions, even if the water has some stain to it, your shad patterns, like your more subtle, translucent patterns, are going to be better on your jerk baits and your crankbaits. And on your soft plastic and your jigs, the more natural colors like the green pumpkins and watermelons are going to be better, even if the water's off colored. You can take a situation, guys, let's say, if you got, say, 15 inches of visibility in the water. Most people would consider that too dirty for like a green pumpkin worm. They'd want to fish something darker like a June bug. But if you have a bright day, like a bluebird bright day, and you've got that off-colored water, those subtle colors like the green pumpkin will work even really good in that off-colored water. And if you've got clear water and you've got a super, super dark day, sometimes the dark colors will work better. Like a June bug worm might work better in really clear water if it's raining over like a watermelon. So main thing, just experiment. It's sort of all over the board as far as possible situations and scenarios, but in general, that's just some foundational tips that I think might help you out. So anyway, hope to help you guys catch a few more. We'll talk later.